Hey guys, Luna here, welcome back to another Skyrim Special Edition video. Today's video is another top 10. The video is going to show you guys the 10 best unique swords in the game that are not Daedric artifacts, so we won't be seeing any weapons like Dawnbreaker for example. While the subject of best weapon is a matter of opinion, these 10 swords are really awesome nonetheless, and will help you decide what weapons you should use in game or try to acquire for your collection. The list is only unique swords, so that means that they are only one of each in the game, or can't be crafted at the forge. I decided to add both one-handed and two-handed swords into the top 10 as well. So let's not waste any more time and just jump straight to our number 10. Our first weapon is the GAULDUR BLACKBLADE. The GAULDUR BLACKBLADE is a leveled unique ancient Nord sword, which means its enchanted power is determined by the level you acquire the sword, and this is pretty similar for loads of the unique swords in this list. The weapon is not too powerful in terms of damage, ranking it roughly in the middle of sword base damages. However, it has a very good enchantment, which is Drain Health, and that means it can essentially heal the player whenever you use it. The sword, as we mentioned, is leveled. So of course, to get the best out of the sword, you should acquire it after level 36, so that way it has the full effect of the Drain Health enchantment. If you're looking to get this sword, it can be obtained in the runes of Folgenthur by defeating Mikril Guldursson during the quest for Forbidden Legend. Our next weapon is a very unique one. It may not be your preferred sword to use in the main game, but it does come in handy. The GHOSTBLADE is a part of a set of 4 unique ghost weapons that have a unique effect unlike any other weapons in the game, which we will go over. The weapon damage is pretty weak, making it one of the weaker swords if you're just looking at base stats, but the weapon has a unique effect that does an additional 3 base damage to enemies, so that is damage that will do full damage to any enemy, regardless of level, and the damage done will not reduce due to the enemy's armors and so on. So any enemy, no matter how powerful, will take the same damage, plus the additional damage done by the sword's regular attack damage. A really cool weapon, and the best part of this is the enchantment never runs out. If you want this weapon, then you receive it during the quest A Love Beyond Death. Our next weapon is the first two-handed sword and our first weapon from the Dragonbane DLC in the list. It's called STORMFANG. While one of the stronger unique two-handed swords in the game, the weapon's base damage is actually pretty weak compared to most other two-handed swords that can simply be crafted at the forge. So what is the purpose of using this weapon? Well, the weapon has a very nice and powerful enchantment that does 45 points of shock damage to your enemy's health. It also does half that amount of damage to enemies' magicka as well, draining it, making this sword more powerful than the most powerful craftable two-handed sword. Of course, this has an enchantment on it, and those other swords don't, but this still makes a pretty decent sword, and you can probably acquire it much easier than the other swords that are craftable, as it doesn't require you to increase your smithing perk or anything like that. To get this sword, it's wielded by the Reaver Lord at Brodeer Grove. Our next sword on the list is called Dragonbane. Dragonbane is a unique one-handed katana that's, like a lot of unique weapons, is leveled, meaning its stats and enchantments are determined by what level you acquire it. The Dragonbane is one of the best swords in the game, and the only reason it ranks in at number 8 is that its enchantment is so specific. Dragonbane's base stats is very high. In fact, looking at damage alone, the sword is the 5th most powerful one-handed sword in the game, tied with some other swords of course. However, its damage and enchantments are determined by what level you get the sword at, so make sure to pick this one up after level 46. Dragonbane has 2 enchantments. First, it does 10 points of shock damage, and second, depending on the level you pick the sword up, it can do up to 40 points of extra damage to dragons. That is a huge amount considering the sword has already one of the highest attacks in game. The weapon can easily take down any dragon in no time at all. If you like this one, you can get it can be obtained in Skyhaven Temple during the quest Alduin's Wall. It is located on a table on the atrium just off to the left of the main chamber, along with a full set of blades armor as well. Our next sword is called HARKONS sword, our first and only weapon from the Dawnguard DLC, and it's another very powerful weapon just like Dragon's Bane, and just like that one however, it is very specific, which is why it's so high in the list. HARKONS sword is another one-handed katana wielded by Harkon, obviously the person you will need to defeat in order to get the sword. The sword's damage make it actually one of the weaker one-handed swords in the game, however its enchantment is very powerful. When wielded by a vampire, every hit you do on an enemy absorbs 15 points of health, magicka, and stamina, making you essentially regenerate everything at the same time as dealing damage. That makes this sword very powerful and very unique. However, the downside is you will have to play as a vampire in order to get the effect, otherwise it's not a very good sword to use. But if you're a vampire, it's definitely one of the best swords to use in game. Our next weapon is called the BLOODSKAL blade. This is a very fun two-handed weapon from the Dragonbane DLC. It has a damage rating making it the 5th most powerful sword in game, on level with the Glass Greatsword. Its enchantment, however, make it far better than the Glass Greatsword. Whenever you use this blade to do a power attack, the sword sends out a wave of damage that travels and deals 30 points of damage to any enemy it hits. Now unfortunately in my game this sword is glitched so it doesn't do it, However, I did install a mod that uses the weapon that takes the ability from the BLOODSKAL blade and does the same thing, so you can see exactly what the power attack looks like. Not only does it deal 30 points of damage with that power attack, however, the power attack can also travel through objects including walls to hit the enemies, and it can deal damage to multiple enemies at once, making this sword extremely deadly. If you're looking to get the sword for yourself, then it can be found during the quest Final Descent. Travel into the depths of the BLOODSKAL barrow to find it. Number 4 on our list is MIRAAK'S sword. The weapon is very powerful, but we will get to that. First, I wanted to look at the unique look and design of this one, as when the weapon is swung, the blade takes the shape of a tentacle and appears to grow in length. This effect is purely cosmetic and it does not increase the striking range, so that already makes this sword very unique. Regardless of whether it's charged or not, the tentacles on the sword will constantly writhe around the blade to make it look like it's alive, so it's pretty creepy at times. However, it's definitely a really cool weapon to use. However, despite the cool looking effects, that's not the reason that this sword is on the list. MIRAAK'S sword has the highest base damage of any one-handed sword in the game. The only reason that it doesn't rank higher in the list is that it doesn't have the best enchantment in game. However, it's still pretty decent. The enchantment absorbs 15 points of stamina from the enemy. Overall, the sword is extremely powerful in terms of damage, and I won't say the enchantment is the best in game, but nonetheless, using this weapon is going to make light work of pretty much any enemy. To acquire it, you have to defeat MIRAAK himself. Remember, this weapon's damage is leveled. You should only acquire the weapon after you reach level 60 to get the best version of it. But it's definitely one worth adding to your collection. The Nightingale blade is a leveled unique one-handed weapon that you receive as a reward from the Thieves Guild quest Hard Answers. The weapon definitely contends as one of the best swords in game. It's only number 3 on my list, but it could easily come in at number 1. The Nightingale blade not only has the 4th highest attack damage in game for one-handed swords, it has a really powerful enchantment on it called Nightingale Talon that absorbs 25 points of damage, 25 points of stamina per hit from your enemy, making anyone wielding it very deadly. A really cool weapon that works well for any player, and even better, it's only one-handed, so it can be dual wielded with any other deadly sword, like our next one. It's true if you watch my mod videos, CHILLREND is probably my most used weapon in the game so far. However, it's not actually my favourite sword to use. It can easily be considered the most powerful weapon in game, however. CHILLREND has the 2nd highest base damage of any one-handed weapon in Skyrim. However, its enchantment is one of the most deadly ones in game. The weapon is leveled again, so pick it up after level 46 to get the best version of it. If you do, it can do an additional 30 points of frost damage to your opponent. However, its second ability can paralyze an opponent for 2 seconds. What makes this sword so deadly is the time it takes for the paralysis to end and the additional time for an enemy to stand back up after being paralyzed. The sword is so powerful already that you can most likely kill your enemy in the time that they are paralyzed, meaning you avoid taking pretty much any damage. Also, against multiple enemies, things are much easier when you constantly paralyze opponents, giving you less enemies to deal with at once. That makes this sword extremely handy, but extremely deadly. If you want the sword, you can pick it up inside the tunnels under Riftweald Manor in Riften during the quest The Pursuit. Our number 1 sword in the game is actually 2 one-handed weapons, called BLOODSCYTH and SOULRENDER. Each weapon is powerful on its own, both are ranked 4th in terms of damage among one-handed swords. Combining them already can be deadly. They, however, have enchantments that only work together. First, BLOODSCYTH absorbs 15 points of health from the enemy and also has a chance to lower the enemy's shields. SOULRENDER does the same, but instead absorbs magicka and has a chance to lower enemies' magical defenses. All of these things make these swords a quadruple threat. 1, both swords have high attack damage, so you can deal good damage to enemies. 2, they're dual wielding weapons, so once you upgrade your dual wield perk in the one-handed tree, you can deal strikes swiftly, dealing even more damage. The sword's lower defenses and magical defenses are both from all enemies. That allows you to deal even more damage to pretty much any enemy type in game, and finally, you constantly absorb health and magicka, stopping mages from attacking and constantly healing yourself. Not a bad combination, and what makes this weapon my favourite swords to use in the entire game. If you're looking for them, you can get them at the end of the quest Deathbrand as part of the Dragonborn DLC. Well guys, there we have it, my 10 best unique swords to use in Skyrim. The list is obviously my own 10 favourites. If you differ, then let me know in the comments. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow for more Skyrim Special Edition videos. See you all then.
Easily blocked.